Thank you, Mr. Driggers. It is great to be in Blythewood. How are we doing this morning? Everybody is excited, I can tell. As Ed said, I'm Charlie. I have 25 years of experience in South Carolina municipal government. As Ed said, and I think it's important, you know who your speaker is. I serve the city of Greenwood, which is a manager form for about 19 of those 25 years. But throughout my other years and in service with the Municipal Association, I have worked in the other two forms. So if there's an area of local government in our state that I feel pretty confident in my thoughts and comments, it is forms of government. For those of you that may be from South Carolina your entire life, I'm going to take you back to your government and civics and state and local government class. Many of you, like me, that may have been your coach or your PE teacher that kind of taught that as an aside. Hopefully, you got some of that in that class, but if not, we're going to talk about that. As Mr. Drigger said, let me get through the session. I'm here all day, and so I will be glad to answer as many questions. That I want to have a conversation today. I want to educate you as much as I can. The Municipal Association of South Carolina, many of you may or may not be familiar with the association, just so you know the organization that I represent. The association was formed well over 90 years ago. I believe it's close to 95 years ago by cities and towns to help them function more effectively. We are not, and a lot of folks get this confused, we're not a regulatory agency. So we have no authority over Blythewood, Ridgeway, the city of Columbia. All we are is a collective organization that cities have put together to try to assist them as best we can. So that's through education. We assist cities and towns in our state with tax collection, those type of things. But we can't instruct, tell cities and towns what to do or not to do. We give advice. And as Mr. Drigger said, I'm one of 3 field service managers. I cover the green area, so I'm leaving here, and we cover all cities and towns, big and small. I'm leaving here and I'm going to McConnell's, South Carolina, that represents a couple hundred people up in York County. So tomorrow I'll be in Peak. So just like you, we help all 271 cities and towns. So why are we here? Why are you here today? Well, we're here because your elected council has, and when I say council, want to make sure that I'm very clear, I mean the mayor and council. So when I say council, I mean the elected team. I'm not just saying the council members excluding the mayor, I mean the mayor and council. So your council by majority has adopted an ordinance. An ordinance is a law that calls for an election, or a more, I guess the legal term is a referendum. And so in just a few weeks, I guess that is July the 29th, there will be a referendum to consider changing the town's form of government from the current mayor-council form to the council-manager form. And so I hope that you are here today to learn, and that's our goal. And that's my goal. And as Mr. Drigger said, I think this is important. And I want to read this slide. The association, the cities can operate under 3 forms of government in our state, taking you back to your civics class: the mayor council, the council, and the manager. And I'm going to go through each of those. And the Municipal Association of South Carolina, We do not make recommendations on any of the forms. So we are not here today to tell you that one form is better than the other. The reality is all forms work just fine. The reality is all three forms fail in our state or have their struggles. And so I'm going to go through some of that and try to be as honest, but follow the law that I can here today. So, again, the three forms of government. First, up until 1975, our state largely operated out of Columbia, right? The General Assembly ran a lot of our local governments. They ran cities and towns and counties out of the state. And then in 1975, the General Assembly adopted Home Rule. And through Home Rule was established the three forms of government. And again, I've already stated those three forms. And so basically what that tries to do is to give the power to the locally elected leaders that you electors of the community elect. It states that, municipalities are units of local government. So now here's the thing that you need to get, and the importance of all forms. In all three forms, the council, and again, when I say council, just reminding you, I'm saying the mayor and the council has the authority of policy. And the number one policy decision of the council is the budget. So all the council members adopt policy that includes the number one policy document, the budget. Again, it's the why, the what. The difference in the three forms is the how, the who, the when, and that's administration. So the three forms are different in that who is managing basically the day-to-day operations. And so we're going to go through that. Again, the major difference is where the executive authority, the day-to-day operations, where that is different. Again, policy, legislation always remains in all three forms with the council. So just a quick, again, going back to Civics 101, just a quick overview. Ed mentioned those 271 cities and towns. And again, these are some facts that just for your information. I would want to clarify, all of these slides are public. I think that you're going to have access to those. The city or the town may put these on their website. So, but any of these, you're welcome to have. I can email them out, whatever. Most of our cities and towns in our state are extremely small. 122 have less than 1,000 population. I'll be in the town of Peak tomorrow night, population 51. So you can see. And you can see kind of the breakdown. There's great variance. The smallest communities like Peak typically are mayor-council forms of government. The larger communities are really across the board. There is some preference in the larger communities of the manager form of government. And I'll talk through that. These next points kind of break down. So in our state, there's 135 of those 271 that operate under the mayor-council. There's 102 that operate under council, and there's 34 that operate under the manager. And again, you'll see some of those, 11 of those have a population of 25,000 or greater. So there is some, the larger communities is where. So now Richland County, and I believe some of Blythewood is in Fairfield County, but from a perspective of Richland County, if you didn't know, here are the municipalities: Eastover, Acadia Lakes, Blythewood, Forest Acres, Irmo, and Columbia. And again, some of those are in Lexington County as well. But you see the differences in the forms of government. All three, I was trying to get my slide, thank you. All three are used in Richland County. And then from a regional perspective, so y'all are in the Central Midlands regional area. And in the Central Midlands area, these are the counties that are represented: Richland, Lexington, Newberry, and Fairfield. There are 29 municipalities in that area, in that region. 13 are mayor council, 11 are council, and 5 are manager. The 5 that are manager forms of government in this region: Batesburg, Leesville, Casey, Columbia, Newberry, and Winsboro. And again, my goal with that is just to give you some perspective. Some general information now. So now we're going to cover the 3 forms of government. The first form that I'm going to cover is the mayor-council form, which you operate currently here in Blythewood. It is the most utilized form in the state. It is often called the strong mayor form of government. And I'll admit to you that is probably a failure of branding terminology. And we're going to get to the council form. Opposite of strong mayor, the council form is referred to as the weak mayor. If I'm going out providing training to communities and elected officials, I do not use the terms strong mayor and weak mayor. I think that it gives the perception that the mayor may have more authority than he or she does. And then when you say weak mayor, it gives the perception to council members the mayor doesn't have authority at all. That's not true. That is not how this was set up. I'll have a slide in a minute that gets into the structure. The reality of the 3 forms is we as citizens have tried to create models that follow a clear structure, right? But human beings, we are not computers, right? And so things get in the way. Our opinions, our beliefs, different groups have different opinions. Unfortunately, about a decade or 12 years ago, something called social media began. And so there are all these outside influences that impact the 3 forms of government. So it's not as simple as looking at the structure. There's a lot of gray area. So again, my goal was simply, if you don't understand it, have never studied the forms of government, if you hear the term strong mayor, it's really incorrect. It is incorrect. So council powers in the mayor-council form of government. They're the legislative body. And again, remember, when I say council, I am including the mayor. So the mayor and council. Collectively, the majority of them set the policy for the community. They appoint collectively, so no one person alone, all 5, 7, 9, 12, 13, whatever our membership is of the council. Here it's 5, right? Yep. So the 5 select or appoint the city attorney, the city judge, the clerk, and they approve the budget. And we're going to go through that in just a minute. Now, the mayor's powers specifically in the mayor-council form of government. The mayor is specifically the presiding officer. So when we have a meeting here, the mayor is to chair that meeting by law. Again, by law, the mayor in the mayor-council form is the chief executive officer. He or she is responsible for running the day-to-day operations in the town. They prepare the budget. They are responsible for preparing the budget. Now, there's nothing wrong with them obtaining assistance from the clerk. We're going to get to an administrator. They're administrator, but it's their responsibility to present the budget to the full mayor and council. Certainly, and we'll get to council's roles. Remember, I said council sets policy. The council could say, thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate all your hard work, but we're going to do something else. Again, it's their council's authority to set the final policy, not the one mayor. But the mayor has oversight of all the department heads and employees. So it is the responsibility on paper, for the mayor to appoint the chief of police, the public works director, all of those folks, and be responsible. Now we're going to talk about how in reality that should work in just a minute. And again, the mayor is responsible for all personnel decisions except for those that I've already said. The council appoints the attorney, the judge, and the clerk. We're going to get to an administrator here in just a minute. The mayor has a vote just like a council member. We hear across the state a lot of confusion. There's some people that will say, well, no, the mayor doesn't vote. Oh, yes, the mayor votes. The mayor has a vote just like every council member. The mayor can make a motion. The mayor can second a motion. So all the authority that a council member has, the mayor has that same authority. Again, we've already said the mayor presides over the council meetings. Did I go back a slide? This looks like the same slide. Okay. So this is where it kind of gets a little touchy, right? The law says that the council, mayor and council, can appoint an administrator to assist the mayor in this form. So in the mayor-council form, the council, so the 5 members, are the ones that need to be interviewing, selecting an administrator to assist the mayor. So at the end of the day, it still remains the mayor's call on all of those personnel and HR decisions. Hopefully he or she is working with the administrator to manage those day-to-day decisions. But that's how that works. The mayor is to ensure the faithful execution of all the laws, not just Blythewood's law, state law, federal law. That is the mayor's responsibility. Now, in all forms, you're going to see this photo. When I provide training, I typically describe it as a marriage, or another way that I've seen professionals describe the forms of government as a dance. While it may say specifically what our individual roles are, it is a marriage and it is a dance. My marriage with my wife. If I cannot, on a daily basis, communicate effectively with my wife, our marriage is not going to be successful. Same here. If the people that are in these roles cannot effectively work together in all the forms, I'm not just speaking, again, the dance photo is in all 3 forms. If the people on this screen, and I'm talking about human beings, cannot do those things, we're not going to be effective. And again, that not just Blythewood, across the state. That's what we see. All of these folks, you know, where I said the mayor appoints the department heads, right? We can talk this way because y'all don't have one of these. So when I say police, I'm not singling out one department. But let's say that we did have a police department here in Blythewood. The mayor's responsibility under state law would be to appoint the police chief. Well, the police chief is a very, very public position, right? That face of that individual may be more than the mayor themselves, right? There's some mayors that may take the position, well, the law says that it's my call. I make the decision. I'm going to appoint this person. And I would tell you that they're right. That's what the law says. But here's where we're dancing. And here's where the marriage comes in. We've got 4 council members. Well, they're elected officials too. They have as much authority, I've already said, in the policy as the mayor. And so in our relationship, if we fail to communicate to the body what we're doing, we're not going to be successful because, and I see it across the state. I could give you many situations. If the council's not aware, they go to the grocery store and it's the tap on the shoulder. I hear we have a new chief of police. Tell me about this individual. Well, if that mayor went down the path of, well, it's my authority, I can tell you what my wife tells me when I think I have the authority. She puts me in my place. So again, I'm just trying to give you a story to explain the reality of the forms of government. So when there's communication and when all these folks have a servant mindset and we're trying to do what is right, beautiful. It can work. This dance can work. And again, I'll answer questions at the end. So transitioning from the mayor-council form of government to the council form of government. Again, you're not considering this form, you're considering the manager form. And I will make a point here. Fortunately, unfortunately, or however you want to look at it, the law, state law, does not give citizens or elected officials to pick and choose, right? I'm struggling with this issue in another town right now. The law says you either have a form and you select another one. You can't put the 3 forms on the ballot and say, well, we want to choose the council form. The law tells the council that you either have to put the question is, we're going from mayor-council to manager or mayor-council to council. You don't have any, everybody following what I'm saying? So again, the council form, second most used form of government in our state, 102 out of 271 cities and towns. Again, called the weak mayor, and I do not like that term because it makes sometimes council members think, well, you're weak, Mr. Mayor or Madam Mayor. We don't have to tell, we can do what we want to do. And that's not true. That is not true. I would dare say most citizens don't understand, whether they missed their civics class or whatever, I don't know, but they don't understand. Most citizens think that the mayor is the person responsible, no matter the form. By tradition, most people think when you talk about a local government, the mayor should be responsible at the end of the day. And so in the council form, sometimes we see council members that try to alienate the mayor. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. And I see that. So again, it's a term that I like better. The council form is also sometimes referred to as government by committee. And that's okay. I'm okay with that form. It's an equal. And in this, there's no separation of power. The council has the full policy-making legislation, and they have the full executive day-to-day authority. So the council, we get the police chief, the situation that I described in the mayor-council form. The police chief now reports to the full council, and then we'll talk about how the administrator plays a role. And so if the council wants to make a decision with the chief of police in the scenario I used in the first one, by law, all 5 have to work together to make that happen. And again, I already said it's often referred to as the council by committee. So again, council form, the council has all policy and executive authority. They can establish or abolish agencies or departments or investigate. Some struggles that I see, it says the council can investigate. When we say council, we mean all 5. So sometimes we'll see council members, kind of go rogue, and they will begin doing behind the scenes of investigating of their own. And that's when we get in trouble. The only entity that can do that type of work is a motion of the full body. The full body has to work together to do that. Now, who is appointed in the council form? So in the council form, again, council appoints the clerk, the attorney, the judge, and all employees. Now, council may hire a town administrator and give that individual, he or she, whatever authority that they desire. So they could say, Madam Administrator, Mr. Administrator, we delegate all employee authority except the clerk to you. You're going to run the day-to-day operation. And it almost becomes like a quasi-manager form. We see some council forms that really get close to operating as a manager form. But again, all 5 or 7 or however many council members we have, they are responsible for the administrator. Typically what we see is the administrator has the authority of the boots on the ground employees, the frontline employees, but if the town administrator has HR problems with the chief of police, I've been using that example, he or she doesn't have the authority to make that decision. They have to go in executive session, Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, members of council, these are the allegations against our chief of police. I recommend you do A, B, C, and council is the one that makes the decision. That's traditionally what we see. And again, the council, the collective body, is responsible as a team to present the budget. Now, they may direct the administrator, the finance director, whatever, to write that budget, but each of them collectively can make decisions. But they have to remember, they're just one vote. And so if they're adamant that something is not there, but 4 or 6 of their fellow council members want it to be there, they have to concede that I'm just one, and I've got to let this go forward. In the council forms, the mayor's powers. So the mayor only has administrative duties if given those duties by the council. So the mayor in the council form has no administrative responsibility unless the council deems it so. The mayor only presides over the council meeting by tradition in the council form. And we do have municipalities in our state where the council has removed the gavel from the mayor and appointed a council member in the council form to lead the meeting. That can be controversial, but it can occur. The mayor may exercise informal, by tradition, authority. The mayor still may serve as a spokesperson for the town, or, you know, the face of the town. All of that is by tradition. There is no formal authority to make that occur. So here's where we have the administrator. And so the administrator typically is going to serve as the day-to-day executive. They're going to have differing authority depending on what council has given them. And again, it's limited by the ordinance that council adopts. And again, it's a dance. It's just like the mayor-council form. It's a dance. And you can see here, the mayor and the council, not sure why my pointer's not working, the mayor and the council have the same responsibility together, policy and administration. They delegate the administration if they choose. Some don't choose. Some may delegate it to the clerk somewhat. But they delegate it to an administrator who then is the person that manages the day-to-day department heads. The council manager form, again, the third form in our state, and this is the form that you're considering. Third most, 34 of 271 municipalities. In state law, it says that the mayor and the council are forbidden by law from interfering with the operations of the department, offices, agencies, and under the direction of the manager. So what does that mean? What does that mean? And again, I was a manager for 9 years, worked in the manager form for 18 years. And I would tell my council, yes, the law says that you're not supposed to interact. What that means is we don't need, from an efficiency standpoint, we don't need to have the public works crew on the east side of town and an elected official be able to call them and say, Mr. Public Works Director or Miss Public Works Director, I know what you're doing is great, but Miss Smith has called me on the west side of town, and Miss Smith says this pothole is huge. So I need you to stop what you're doing, pick up the crew, and move to the west side. And I should have said, the manager form of government grew out of the early 1900s in what we refer to as the progressive movement. There's a separation, the politics dichotomy, the separation of politics and administration. The goal of the manager form is to try to get a professional, educated, ethical manager, individual, he or she, to come in and run as efficiently as we can the day-to-day operations. Again, it's a dance, easier said than done, but if I was the manager in that situation where I told you Miss Smith had called, what I told my department heads, I am fine if council members contact you. It is fine. They're elected and they deserve to be connected to you. But you as department head in the manager form, you, under this system that we have, you report to me, the city manager. And so once you get off the phone with the elected official, your next call for this system to work must be to me. And you tell me, hey, a council member just called me. This is what they asked. What do you want me to do? And so it's got to be, in this form of government, it's got to be the manager's call, again, because our goal is to create efficiency. Efficiency. The mayor and council should have no direct involvement in the day-to-day hiring of people. the mayor that I worked with, I told him up front, I said, Mr. Mayor, members of council, you all know what the law is. I'm okay if you call me. Now, call me, but what I don't want you to do is go, Mr. Chief, Police Chief, Fire Chief, hey, this is my friend Joe. I need you to get Joe a job. Again, in the 1900s, in the early 1900s, before the progressive movement, when the big cities were controlled by the mafia, what they were trying to do is run it that way, where the mayor could say, get this person a job. We're trying to get that out of this system, and so the manager. Now again, I try to think that I have a little knowledge up here in this head. I certainly would listen to my mayor or my council member, and it may or may not hurt that they gave me this name, but again, it would go into the group of people, and I would try my best to interview that individual with the same lack of bias that I would anybody else. I would look at their qualifications. On paper, that's how it's supposed to work. I know in reality that sometimes it may or may not work that way. So the council powers, again, when I say council, I mean mayor and council. Again, council still retains the policy decision. So you could have the best manager across America, and he could present to you a superstar budget. And you could say, Mr. Manager, we could care less about you. We're the council, we're the mayor, and we're going to write our own budget and tell you what to do. So again, the citizens, you as electors, you don't lose the policy ability. You still have the ability to push your elected officials to do what you want to do. It's their responsibility collectively to then tell that manager what he or she must do. Again, the council still keeps all the policy, as in all three forms. Now here's where it gets a little different. So the council in the manager form appoints the manager and the attorney and the judge, and that's it. So here in Blythewood, if we went to the manager form, and it would be no different from having an administrator here, if one day I'm the manager and I show up and 3 council members no longer trust me or no longer have faith in me or whatever, we could come to a meeting, and if 3 people vote against me, I'm out. And that's the balance, the check and balance, that 3 council members can remove the manager. And again, the council retains the responsibility of adopting that balanced budget. The mayor's responsibility, again, in the manager form, the mayor has no formal authority. He or she is just like a council member. They are one vote that sets policy. The mayor, by tradition, can preside over the meetings, and in some cases, the mayor still retains that by tradition or informal authority. And you know, because we're here in Richland County, and most of us see Mayor Rickman on TV. He is a very good, in my opinion, very good, good at the public speaking. He presents well, and so the city gives him some, by tradition, authority to almost be the spokesperson for the city. But doesn't have to be that way. The council could say, no, we want the manager to do that. It's up to the body. So now the manager's powers, again, I've already told you, serves at the pleasure of the majority. Now, yes, the manager or administrator could have an employment agreement. And so in either case, if the votes are taken and it was not for cause, we just don't like you anymore, sorry, you're out. Then that employment agreement may have language in there that would basically buy out the manager. That is standard in our profession, and I'm glad to answer any questions at the end about that. Again, state law defines the powers of the manager. The manager is the chief executive. And one of the little, the manager can remove people, affix salaries, as long as we're within that budget. The budget would typically have the number of employees, 10 people in this department. The manager couldn't go necessarily above that number. But typically in your budget ordinance, depends on what council passes, the manager could have authority, if granted by council, to move money between departments or line items. It couldn't change the bottom line. That's still a policy decision. But the manager could have some day-to-day control of the budget within the framework that council adopts. Again, prepares and submits the budget. But again, council can take it and say, we don't like it, we're doing our own budget. The manager is responsible to ensure that monthly financial statements are given to the council. That, of all the challenges we see in our local governments, that is the number one. If we're not getting monthly financial statements, I don't care what form, we've got to stop and figure out what's going on. And the manager is responsible for implementing the policies that council adopts. The biggest difference in all forms, and this is kind of a little tiny thing, unlike the other two forms, the manager appoints the clerk. And that makes some sense, again, where we've said the manager is responsible for all staff. And so under this form, the manager appoints the clerk. And when I say appoints, I also mean remove. So if the manager needs to remove the clerk, it is his or her decision. Now let's be honest again. We'll get to the dance slide in just a minute. Back to the manager's powers. The council still retains all the authority to appoint the boards. So our planning commission, our board of zoning appeals, all of those are still appointed by your elected council. Again, mayor and council. But the manager certainly can give advice, recommendations. Hey, I think this individual, but again, council can say, disagree with you, Mr. Manager, Madam Manager, we're choosing somebody else. The manager can advise council on policies and departments, but again, it's the council's decision to continue a policy, to add a department, to eliminate a department. That still is retained by the council. A little interesting little nugget in there. If the manager has to go on leave or whatever, or goes out for an extended period, and this occurred while I was the manager in Greenwood, I had to go on medical leave. The manager designates who is responsible. So in Greenwood, we had a letter in the vault that said at all times that I, the manager, appoint the finance director to serve as the manager. Now, here's the check on that. The council, after this occurs, can have a special meeting the next night and say, no, we disagree. This person is going to be the interim manager. Does that make sense? So there's still ultimate authority with the council. But again, it's still a dance. You see now all personnel decisions, day-to-day management flow through the manager. But again, a good manager understands the challenges that are going on. In any sensitive position, the manager is going to be communicating with all council members, not just one, but all, and saying, Mr. Mayor, Miss Councilwoman, Madam Councilwoman, I'm getting ready to terminate the clerk. Here is why. And you want to, again, dance, give that heads up to that elected official that has to go to church and the grocery store in this community and understand what's going on. Now, to make this form work right, those elected officials have to understand their role. We've, by contract or whatever, hired this professional to run our day-to-day. It's our role to allow he or she to do it. And we're not going to step in to that. So again, it's a dance. Changing the form of government. So y'all are kind of already there in that process. There are two ways to change the form of government, two ways for it to move forward. One, the citizens, the electors, can sign a petition by 15% of the electors saying, hey, council, and again, council means mayor and council, we want to change our form of government, call for an election. So that's one way. The second way is the council can just call for the election, and that's what's occurred here. So if this does pass, the form of government cannot be changed for 4 years. Again, what the General Assembly, when they put this in, you don't want this ping pong ball, because we're not going to be able to function if we just keep moving back and forth. I don't know the date. Well, somebody did tell me, Mr. Driggers, did you tell me December 1st? January 1st? When it would go into effect December? Okay, thank you. So this is some confusion. A lot of folks say, okay, well, if it happens yes or happens no, well, what happens? Well, if there's a yes, council thankfully has adopted. We want to be, clarity is so important here. If there is a yes vote, it would come into effect at the end of November. Why is that? Well, between July and November, we've got to update all of our policies. So if we don't update our policies to reflect what I have shown you here, we're going to have problems. And I see this across the state where there was a mayor-council form. Nobody cleaned up the code, and they are now operating 20 years later under the manager form of government, but their code still says, for example, the mayor sends out the agenda. That shouldn't be that way in the manager form. In the manager form, by tradition, the manager would be the one listening to all the voices of council and drafting that agenda to serve. So we want to make sure that all of our personnel policy, our code is cleaned up to reflect whatever form the citizens adopt. And so that gives us between the election to the end of November to get that done. And then it would start, and certainly you would possibly have some new council members or old that would come in November. So if I confused you and I did not do a good job as your civics professor today, I apologize. But we do have on our website a Forms of Government Handbook. Our website is masc.sc. To serve paper, if anybody just has to have a copy, I can get a few today, but I would prefer you to go to our website. You can go to our publications page and obtain this document. Yeah, great. So it's linked on this is, in my opinion, of all the publications out there, this is as simple as it can get, because let's be honest, I showed you there's still a whole lot of gray area, because in all three forms, you have humans running the day-to-day, and there's a lot of gray area within that. So I wanted to just hit on some ethical issues or points that you need to understand now that we're in the referendum. So by the Ethics Act, and those that are covered by the Ethics Act, all elected officials, all employees, and all appointed officials. So Planning Commission members, BZA, we're all, when I was a city manager, I was covered by the Ethics Act. You cannot use public stuff to influence somebody's vote. And let me explain that. So this is what the law says. A person may not use or authorize the use of public funds, property, or time to influence the outcome of an election. So we cannot use a public email address. If I was the city manager in Greenwood and the referendum was on there, I couldn't, from my public email address, I couldn't go, hey, citizens, vote no. I don't want you to change the form of government, or vote yes. I could not use a city telephone. I could not pick up the phone and have a conversation with a citizen and say, hey, I need you to vote no for this or vote yes. We do not want to put a billboard on town hall, vote yes. We don't want our elected officials at their next meeting at the dais, hey, don't forget the election is Tuesday, go vote yes, because again, that's a public space. Now, there's a private space, right? So I, as the employee, the elected official, or whatever, can use my personal email address, my personal telephone, my walking feet going door to door, whatever, anything outside of this building or this public space to influence you. I can encourage you, whether I'm elected, employee, or whatever, you need to vote this way. So just making sure you understand that. There was one, and so there's an ethics opinion. If you're wanting to really understand that, you can go to the South Carolina Ethics website. There are two opinions at this link that they've got listed where this has been, because certainly you as a citizen, how can a council member tell me to vote? Well, they retain that, or an employee, in their private space. There's nothing wrong. Also in this opinion, it explains, and this is what the town of Blythewood is doing. There's nothing wrong with the town informing its electors of the process. So just like I'm here today, on your website is the question, links to stuff, but there shouldn't be. There's nothing that should be on the website. There's nothing, I hope, that came out of my mouth today that tells you should vote this way or that way. The goal with Blythewood, the public website, my public comments should be, here are the facts, it's your choice. So with that, Mr. Driggers or anybody else, do we want to open it up for questions, or did y'all have comments? Or and again, we're going to go to comments now. I'll be as honest as I can, but for the press that is here and the town that is streaming this, we want you to speak into the mic so that for our online viewers that they can hear your question. Questions that anybody may have. Yes, sir.
I had to write my question. It's kind of long. But, you know, our elected officials, whether it's the mayor or the council members, they all have different skill sets. They all have different values, different standards for ethics. They all have the skill sets. What concerns me is the leadership, the management, the communication, the technical skills. We're not going to elect someone with just a total skill set. They all have, you look at our own council members, they all have very good strengths and they all have weaknesses. And then when you look and you consider the budget decisions, the contracting, the possibility of corruption or mismanagement of funds, and when you consider the political divide that's all in our community and everywhere, even within the council members, what form of government would you think would be the best kind of resolve all those issues and best reflect the Blythewood community's mindset, their money, you know, because it's our tax dollars.
Yeah, and I, again, have to go back to my beginning, I guess it was the third slide, and I have to tell you that all three forms can do what you just said. All three can do it.
And see, it can't do that when, when you have a mayor that's elected one skill set and another mayor that's elected, I mean, you look at our last four mayors, they're all different. They all have, and really, I can see how all three will work if we elect the right individual at that time and with the right council members. You know, when I'm talking of what is the safest way to go long-term.
Can't answer that for you. Again,
Okay.
it goes that all three forms can work, just like a marriage or a dance. I cannot dance. I do not dance. So if my wife wants to dance with me, she has to lead me. And just like elected officials, they have to be open, honest, and trusting, and they have to know themselves and know, I have this strength, I have this weakness, and these five people have to get together and say, here's my strength, here's my weakness, and they all have to build trust to get it done. That's the system that we've been given.
And you know that's not happening, and it doesn't happen everywhere.
It does happen. It does
Not
happen.
everywhere, but it does happen.
It does happen in all three forms.
If we all had the same ethical, spiritual values, yeah, it could work, but it's just not working. And I haven't seen anywhere I've been that it has worked. Because people are just so different nowadays.
Again, all three forms can work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't have a problem with that. Did you want to state your name?
My name's Geraldo Cruzado. I live here in Blythewood. I'm since 2011, and I'm retired military. I'm from South Carolina. I grew up in South Carolina. I was born in Georgia, though, Fort Benning, Georgia. But this is home to me, and this means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to all of us,
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Other people that would like to ask questions? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kayla. I grew up in Blythewood, Bethlehem Berry, so grew up in Blythewood. And my question is kind of a follow-up to his, which is, in your experience, is there a particular trigger point at which any particular form of government makes the most sense for the size of the community?
No. Again, we have all sizes here in the state. By tradition, you typically see the mayor-council form in the smaller jurisdictions, and that's why you see the manager form in such small numbers across the country, because our country is made up of extremely small cities. And so most tend to operate under an elected structure. The more larger communities by population are the ones that are traditionally choosing the manager form. But again, the three forms can work in any system, any structure. It's those human beings that are put there to be married or dance together. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Janet Wedlock, and I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, you did a great job, and I learned a lot, and I already knew.
So I should teach civics, you think?
Yes, you should
Okay.
teach civics,
Right.
and if not you, someone else, because it's a very important topic.
yeah.
Our students should learn it.
Sure.
Some councils are by district. They represent a particular part of town.
Sure.
Is the mayor always generally elected
At large? Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that, typically you would see, I believe council would have to have a referendum, again, to create districts. And just comparative, in Greenwood, we had 6 districts, and so the council members represented those districts. Oh. Okay. Yeah.
When you look at Blythewood, as far as size, you know, we've just been growing exponentially, and we've got Scout Motors just down the street now. Where would you categorize Blythewood as far as small, medium, growing type of town?
You're probably, you know, that is such a fact-specific question. Blythewood is unique in that you don't have a lot of the services that we see in many of our municipalities. So you're unique, and so but you're getting into that middle, the medium-sized community, and you're probably growing in a direction where you may be able to afford some of those services into the future. But again, it's going to be up to the citizens in this room to make that decision.
Do you see Columbia kind of continue to grow where it just may overlap Blythewood?
Well, cities couldn't, you know, they don't have the authority to, there are ways, but the town, you just can't, the city just can't come in and take over, the city of Columbia.
City limits, you know, like you look at Atlanta back when I was a young kid in the 60s.
Sure.
Even South Carolina, Columbia, we couldn't believe it was the capital city at the
Sure.
time. But when you look how Atlanta just grew and just
Sure.
overtook a whole lot of small towns.
Sure.
that happening.
It would have to go around. But you know, let's just be honest that the prices, inflation is not stopping, right? And so the city leaders of Columbia, thinking again with their Columbia hat on, they either have to grow revenue from the inside or expand. That's their choice. And so many times to sustain themselves, they have to grow. That will be up to this leadership. I mean, certainly because, you know, some of the services are already offered by the city of Columbia in this area, water, you know, but it's up to this town and this elected body to create that brand and to build Blythewood into the destination that you do want or not want it to be. It's up to you. Yes, sir.
You gave us 3 forms of government, but the election is only for 2 of those?
So the election is asking, you currently operate under the mayor-council form, and the election is a question asking, do you want to change to the manager form?
Okay.
And my point was, council under state law does not have the authority to give you a 3-part question to say which form would you prefer. They have to ask you either choose the manager form, yes or no, or choose the council form, yes or no. And they put on the ballot to choose the manager form.
In the council manager form, the council appoints the manager?
Correct.
Not elected by the people?
Correct.
So the only way to remove
Is a majority of
manager.
council.
And then the community needs to influence their elected officials.
Certainly.
If there's an issue.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody saw that. In all the forms, the most important group up here, in my opinion, in all of these, that top group, the voters. In every form, every community, the voter is the #1 group. And so if we as voters are disengaged, don't come to meetings, don't care, we're going to get what we deserve. We've got to have voters that are engaged, that are asking questions, and that are trying to make a difference.
What I'm gathering from what you said, and no matter what form of government, the key is communication between the members of the council. If they can't communicate, there are problems.
That's true. But in addition to, there's internal and external communication. We have to internally effectively communicate as a team. Takes trust, and then we have to effectively communicate as a team externally. We have to be transparent. There are no secrets. And you know, that's hard.
But
It's
you
hard.
are dealing with humans, as you said.
You're dealing with humans. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks. You did a great job. I've heard these more times than I can count, and you did a great explanation.
Sure.
My question is for the, we've covered these things before. What is the wording going to be on the ballot? A lot of times when voters go to the polls, we hear, we were confused because it wasn't, it's either just yes or no. So my question is, are you going to circulate a sample ballot of what the wording will be on the day of the election?
And that may already be on the website. It is. Mr. Driggers is telling me that it is. And I think that if I can get back to it, that the little thing that I've seen on your social media and other places, I apologize. Well, that, you know, it says, you know, shall the town of Blythewood change its form of government from mayor-council form to the council-manager form?
But no explanation of each.
It is going to be up to the voter to do their homework and to come prepared to answer that question, yes or no.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions? Other questions? Well, I thank y'all for coming on a Monday morning after a holiday weekend to get engaged with your community. That speaks a lot. So it was great to be here, and I guess I'll see you again. Is it next week? Next week, 6 p.m. So.
Thank you, Charlie. Again, you know why he's such a good resource around the state. Everyone that's in local government likes to call on Charlie Barno. He's a staple in this state. Again, all the information that you've seen today, all of these slides that he's presented are on the Town of Blythewood's website. Everything that we have shared here in this meeting, the notice of the election, all the links that were described today, all of those are on our website for Town of Blythewood. And again, that's townofblythewoodsc.gov. And if you go to that site, you can find all of this information. And so, yes, the question was, you know, how do folks know? What we're hoping is through sessions like this morning, the session we'll do a week from now, the video of today's session that will be available on our website, and that public information available through our site, linking through the Municipal Association. The intent is to inform and educate our community so that they can make an informed decision relative to that question that will be on the ballot. The most important thing is that on July 29th, if you do not vote, you do not choose. And so if you do not vote, your neighbors will make that decision for you, yes or no. And so it's important for you and your neighbors and others in this community to do this, because it will shape this community one way or another as you move forward. And so I want to thank you for that. I did want to just, as information, someone's asking about population growth. Blythewood is, from the last census data, we're actually one of the fastest growing municipalities in the state. And I would anticipate that you'll see that continue to happen. It's one of the conversations that I have with council on a regular basis. I came here, I spent 20 years as the manager in Greer, which is the home of BMW. And after spending 20 years in a community with an organization like that, I'm familiar with what Scout Motors will mean to this community. It will be the citizens and the elected officials of this community that will make decisions about what that impact looks like going forward, where your residential will take place, where commercial development will take place, where industrial development will take place. You have the ability to on the front end, where you are now, which is where we were 25 years ago with BMW, you are now on the beginning side of being able to shape what that looks like. And I only mean that from the perspective of planning. The council, the mayor, and whatever form of government that you use, that group will have the responsibility of making those decisions going forward. But yes, the question was, are we growing? Yes, and we're growing pretty rapidly. I was in a council form of government. I was in a council form of government that the mayor and council appointed a city administrator, and so my title was city administrator, but I had all responsibilities for the day-to-day operations that was delegated to me by the council. Before there, I worked at the city of Chester, and I was the city administrator, but I had authority for day-to-day operations. I could hire department heads, but I could only terminate department heads upon the advice and consent of council. So it's different in different places how they do that. And so I've worked in those two forms. And as an interim, I was an interim for a year at Newberry, and that was a manager form of government. I was an interim again back over in Chester, which again is a council form of government, and I'm an interim here where we are a mayor-council form of government. So now at the end of my career, since I retired about 5 years ago, I can say I have worked in all three forms of government in South Carolina.
I appreciate the civic lesson. You know, in whatever form of government you have, it does depend on people right here. If you don't have the right mayor, or you don't have the right council, it doesn't matter. It boils down to whom you elect in a leadership role. And unfortunately, right now, we've got a divisive area in our.
And so maybe I can conclude with us in thanking you for coming and spending your time with us today. In my profession, the old joke used to be, well, is it ever going to change? And it says, always, funerals and elections. Thank you for coming out today. We really, really appreciate it.